When the Canucks miss the playoffs again.
When Jim Benning trades away all our picks.
When Goldalden is scratched for the third game in a row. C4 is there. With Sedin-like vision, Horvat's work ethic, and Petey's electric personality. Here comes the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast with Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Powered by Overtime Media.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. I am Chris Golden at Lightforce, a voice that you've not heard for some time because I've abandoned the team here. That's right, I am joined in the hot box, the big hot box, by Anna Forsyth at aforsyth03. Missing in action is Matt Lee at MattLee_61 because he happens to be in Hawaii.
And he didn't take us?
No, he didn't take us, but I didn't take you guys either, and I happened to go to Hawaii a couple of weeks ago myself.
Oh. I didn't notice, because you didn't ever mention it once.
Did I not mention it? No? I didn't think I did. Also missing in action is Adam Owenell-Carter at AdamFOC, because he is now a working man.
Yeah, he's said something about, like, money to pay bills.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
The podcast just doesn't make bank, so we don't have the means to pay, hydro, rent, mortgages, student loans, all that good stuff. But we are going to be joined a little bit later on by special guest. Do we let them know now in the intro, or do we just, let that cat out of the bag when he joins us?
Ooh, we could drop some hints.
Okay. Hint number one from Anna is?
That he's known by his Twitter handle, and it's a title.
Oh. Is this guy at all into a sport or two?
See, he would want you to say that he's into all sports. But most people would know him being into a particular sport. One that we're quite fond of.
Like cricket?
Yeah, like cricket.
Like cricket, okay.
Similar to cricket, but like a slippy version of that. Imagine that.
A slippy version of cricket. Does this guy have a podcast?
No.
Oh, he's not a podcaster. Oh. Does this guy get to show up on TV from time to time?
I believe he has been on TV before.
Before? Well, I mean, we've all been on TV. I've been on TV. Have you been on TV?
I don't think so. Not on purpose.
Oh, Matt was on TV.
Yeah, who let him on TV? I just don't know. Who let him on the radio for so long? That's a real good question.
Well, someone needed to butcher British sayings and other sorts of words and such. Like, I used to read this forum on, radio in Vancouver, and every so often people would talk about that particular station, and I always wondered, is one of these comments about Matt?
Yeah. Actually, I used to, listen to CKNW with my roommate's parents, and they were very excited when I said I knew Matt. They were like, why don't you bring him over to the house? I was just like, no. I don't want to see him any more than I have to.
Really? What about me?
Yeah, I know. They somehow were more excited about Matt.
Yeah, I'd be more excited about Matt, too.
I can't explain it.
But we will have our special guest joining us as we get into our first segment, which is going to be Rewind. But what is it that we're going to be talking about this week? Well, the Vancouver Canucks have been having quite a bit of success in the Bo Horvat era. They have suffered only one defeat while Horvat has rocked the sea.
I do like the sound of that Bo Horvat era.
The Bo Horvat era?
Yeah, that's nice.
So, actually, speaking of eras, we had the Sedin era, we had the Horvat era. What was last year's era?
In between era, I don't know.
And you think about it, right? You look at Canucks history. There's the Sedin era, and prior to the Sedin era, sort of like the Luongo era. There was the Torts era. There's all these different eras. The Torts era. There is the time that we don't talk about because it brings up nightmares era.
Yeah, I don't think last year had much of an identity of anything. I guess it was Petey's first season, so the birth of an alien.
Yeah, but it's got to be an era.
No, I know.
Does one season make an era?
No, it can't.
Okay.
It can't.
It's like the interlude. But yes, the Vancouver Canucks are having quite a bit of success on the ice. So we're going to ask this question that our patrons want to ask our special guest is, should we believe? Or at least some of our patrons. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being in patron chat is you get to ask questions of special guests you didn't know we were going to have.
Yeah. So you would already know who that special guest was if you're a patron.
That's true. But all of you listeners right now, you're just sitting there like, I don't know who this guy is. Well, again, he'll be joining us soon. We're going to talk a little bit about special teams. So the Vancouver Canucks, it's like the tale of two worlds when it comes to special teams. They've got a penalty kill, and they've got a power-ish play.
Power-ish play, yeah.
Like, it got a goal this weekend.
It did, but somewhat powerful play.
Yeah, somewhat powerful play. We're going to talk a little bit about what might have contributed to the fact that there was some power that showed up this weekend. I really enjoyed that penalty kill we saw in the third period from the Vancouver Canucks in New York. That 15-minute power play that the Rangers were on.
Exactly. The whole third period was very stressful.
So we'll talk about that. And there's a couple storylines to drop in. Things going around in the league. What's going on in the fan base here in Vancouver. But before we go and take a quick break as we get into Rewind, Anna, I think you have something our listeners want to hear about.
Yeah, I just want to tell you about a special offer just for C4 listeners for a website called MyBookie. So that's a sports betting website. So it covers all sports, not just hockey. Like, that's the most important sport, obviously. Like, I would mainly be going on there for hockey. But if you're interested in basketball, in football, that's your kind of football, not my kind of football. Baseball, and obviously, most importantly, hockey. You'll want to head over to mybookie.ag, and you want to check out what they have going on over there. Not only that, but there's so much going on over there, but you can use the promo code OVERTIME, and they'll match your first deposit. So, just head over to mybookie.ag /sports, and you'll want to make a deposit, and if you enter the promo code OVERTIME, they will match that first deposit. So, play, win, get paid, all at mybookie.ag.
And remember, it was the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast that helped you win all that extra dough.
So, when you get rich and famous, please thank your friends at C4.
That's right.
Specifically me.
We're going to jump into Rewind. It's the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and the Overtime Media Network. So we have now been joined by our special guest, who again, we gave you hints in the intro as to who it might be, but we've got Rob Williams here, who is known as Rob the Hockey Guy, but you'd like to be known more than just being the Hockey Guy now. You are the sports editor for Daily Hive, which is... Okay, I'm confused here, because like the sports section in Daily Hive now has like this new name. Like, is it the Daily Hive still? Like, what? How am I supposed to refer to you as?
Yeah, still sports editor of Daily Hive. It's maybe a little bit confusing because now we've got all sorts of channel names for all of our sections. So, like our food section is being called Dished for the last few years.
Yeah,
so
okay, Dished.
Our sports section is called Offside. So that's kind of like the new name, just to kind of give it its own little pizzazz and personality and that sort of thing. So yeah. Same guy, different. Yeah,
same guy.
New channel,
only knows hockey.
Yeah, just more layers of things. Yeah.
This is like Rob the Hockey Guy trying to say he talks about soccer.
I think I wrote 2 tennis articles today in
I just can't.
October.
Do you feel dirty when you do that?
Hey, fun fact: I was on my high school's tennis team in grade 12.
Ooh.
We were the first team from our high school. Van Tech is the school I went to. First team to go to the provincial championships. Usually it's one of the West Side schools or one of the private schools. Gritty East Van team, provincial championships. I was not the best player.
I was going to say,
or the second best player.
The fact that you even had a tennis team. My school was really posh and we didn't have a tennis team.
Yeah. My school probably should have had a tennis team. We had a football team that was no good.
Yeah, no, we weren't good at sports. We were creative arts school.
Yeah, I reminisce about the high school era, and I look back, and I went to school in Richmond. When high schools in Richmond, there's essentially 3 options. There was the academic school, which is the one I went to, Steeston. There was the athletic school, which was Richmond, and then there was the other high school, McNair. And if you wanted to excel in athletics, you went to Richmond High. They had always the best basketball team, the best football team, the best. At Steeston, we had people acing provincial examinations and raising the bar. If you wanted to get your Chem 12 provincial exam knocked out of the park, you had to hope that Steeston didn't have an entire Chem 12 class ace it. Anyhow,
were you one of the Clever kids.
I was I was not. I was middle of the road.
Okay.
Right, like that's the best way. I was not knocking out 100% on my Chem 12 provincial exam. I was the guy who was gaming the system to try to figure out what can I do to get the GPA that I need to get out of this place into the place that I want to by doing the minimum amount of work and effort.
Lazy. Gotcha.
No, lazy would have been I wouldn't have done any of that. I did just enough.
Okay.
It's called efficient.
Uh-huh.
I am going to be the leader of this country one day because I am so efficient. But speaking of being a leader, we started off the episode by referring to the fact that the Vancouver Canucks have been extremely successful in the Bo Horvat era. You slap a C on a guy and suddenly the team realizes that they can win hockey games. Is that all it took? Like, is that the problem last year, is they just didn't throw the captaincy on Bo like they should have?
No, I would quibble with the fact with putting the C on him. I think what they did was absolutely perfect. I think they hit it out in every way with the captaincy.
And that had nothing to do with the fact that you were at the game where you got the C.
No.
Well,
okay. Well, there's that. I was really surprised that they waited till the third game to give out the C. I thought they would do it in a kind of maybe some other creative way, but in a before the season starts. That's typically what teams do. I don't think I've ever seen any team purposely wait 3 games into the season before actually naming their captain. So that was a bit different, I think. But I think it was kind of a cool moment that they were able to kind of put together. But I do think it was smart of them to wait a year to make sure that he kind of had that he took another step without any extra pressure on his shoulders. And I think now he's the captain of, we think, not a bad team.
Yeah.
And I think that's a much easier task for a young player than being a captain of a bad team, because there's a lot more uncomfortable questions that come with that, right?
Well, I think Bo would have been able to address those uncomfortable questions. I think we saw it sort of even in 2 seasons ago. He seemed to be the type of kid that had a good head on his shoulders, a balanced approach to life, and ultimately, I think it was identified quite early on that he was going to be the future captain of the Vancouver Canucks, or a potential captain of the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think anyone and their dog would have thought the Sedins would have retired just like that. Hey guys, you get 4 games and we're out. So again, who knows? But regardless of the fact that he's the captain now, they have lost 1 game in the Bo Horvat era. Yeah, I'm not counting the 2 games where there wasn't a captain.
Yeah, that's technically not his fault.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Well, he was the secret captain, though, as we found.
Okay, yeah. We watched the video where Daniel, totally the secret captain. But still doesn't count because the secret didn't count until after the fact.
That's right.
But I've been talking about this. I'm going to totally hijack the rundown here because Anna put it together.
That's fine. I didn't do it for any particular reason.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, this is the rundown. So it's like Canucks versus Detroit. Anna was there. Did you want to talk about the game you were at, Anna? Is that it?
It was fun.
Oh gosh, yeah. I would have loved to have been there.
What I more wanted to talk about was the PP clicking.
In the one game. Okay. Fair enough. Let's talk. We were going to talk about special teams. I thought we'd get into that a little bit later, but if you want to talk about it right now.
Well, I just wanted to introduce it, but basically it was exciting to watch because it was like a team that we hadn't been figured out yet, but you knew that you couldn't play that way forever. Like, it was a great one-game thing, but they couldn't do it again. Like, it seems like they had this one idea, but it wasn't going to last very long. That was my read of it, because it seemed to go wrong straight away in New Jersey with the special teams, and they switched over Brock and Petey during the game. So I think they kind of realized quite quickly that what they had going on before wasn't working.
I would like to get into special teams when we do talk about half full, half empty. But I mean, it is fair to say that the Vancouver Canucks have some power play troubles, and we sort of saw an evolution of the power play on the road, at least so far. But okay, let's sort of recap the fact that the Vancouver Canucks beat the Detroit Red Wings 5-1. They then somehow figured out how to win a game in St. Louis that arguably they maybe didn't have as much business winning. They won in a shootout. We had a certain someone to thank for that to get us into overtime. I don't remember who was that helped the Vancouver Canucks get into overtime.
What do you want to answer your own question?
Well, no, I'm asking you. I'm trying to drive the narrative here.
What's your narrative, Chris?
I don't remember what I had for lunch.
Yeah.
So, Bo Horvat scored the tying goal.
He did.
And the goal he scored was
Bo
the
Horvat.
type of,
Yeah.
I'll harken back to the Trevor Linden days where when he was in his prime, Trev would get on the ice and he would somehow make something like that happen. I know, very small sample size, one game, early on in a season that we still don't have an entire idea how it will pan out. But it's something nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, good teams win ugly games of hockey, right? And that wasn't a great game of hockey in terms of, they just kind of hung in there. Like they did also against New York. But, that Bo Horvat goal was just, gross. It was gross and muddy and dirty, but it was great.
Yeah, you somehow find a way to get the puck over the goal line. And that was sort of how the blue-collar Vancouver Canucks used to do things. And
back in the day.
I'm old enough to say back in the day. But the other thing that came out of that game, though, is Pettersson being introduced to Binnington's blocker, accidentally on purpose, through one way, shape, or form. How is it that takes place in the game and no one bats an eye? And I know this sort of goes towards how the NHL has trouble protecting players to some extent. If that happened to Sidney Crosby, it would have been, front page news. We'd have heard about it on SportsCenter all night long in between Toronto Maple Leafs updates. But yeah, Pettersson essentially gets the business, and people are like, yeah, okay.
Goalies get away with so much, don't you think, though?
I agree that they get away with a lot, but the play is completely dead. There's a referee who's standing there, and Binnington falls over by twisting his entire body, seeing that Petey's on the ice, and dives, arm first with the blocker out to, again, accidentally on purpose, give Petey the business.
Yeah. I mean, we saw
I'm
it
a biased Canucks fan here, sorry.
No, but Mackenzie Blackwood threw off his mask during
yeah. We haven't got to that game
Okay,
yet.
but I'm just saying, goalies get away with so much. For one of a better word, housery.
Yeah.
I like how, both the straps on his mask were off, so you can kind of understand why he did it, because that's kind of a dangerous and also distracting for a goalie, and the referee should be blowing the whistle on that. But I don't think I've ever seen a goalie full on grab the mask and chuck it in the corner. That was pretty awesome to see.
Was it Blake Price, I think, tweeted out or was it maybe Joey Kenward?
Oh, Joey Kenward, yeah.
A section of the rules that quite clearly say, well, a player can't do it. I totally understand why he would. I'm still curious how both straps come undone like that. I can totally see how one would.
Yeah, there's special rules for goalies. Okay, I'm going to go off script again here,
yeah,
but no. So at my men's league game last night, we start playing the other team that was a lot better than us. They didn't have a goalie to start the game, so their goalie showed up about 5 minutes into the game. So they're playing 6-on-5, and we can't get the puck from them.
Oh my god!
Sorry, 6-on-5 empty net.
Yeah, no, yeah, they've got an empty net, but they were better.
Yeah.
But then their goalie shows up, and so I've played hockey for a long time. Your goalie shows up. Normally, it's the goalie's on the bench, and then you try to find somebody to come on from. This guy just jumps on the ice at the end boards. He had to skate the length of the ice, so he hops on into the corner board, the corner door by the dressing rooms at the end of the rink, and he's got to skate all the way to the other end of the rink. And he just starts skating to the end of the rink, and I'm on the ice just yelling for too many men, and it didn't get called. So there you go. So goalies, it is unfair. Referees have a bias towards goalies, and
so he changed on the fly without the change.
Yeah, so they had 7 guys on the ice, and then I go to the referee afterwards, and I'm like, "How did you not why wasn't that too many?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't see it." And I was like, "I was yelling too many men," and I'm like, "How did you miss a goalie?"
Yeah,
The goalie went end to end. He didn't sneak into the one net in the boards there. He went end to end, and then the other team had to scramble to get somebody off the ice.
I think somebody.
I'm not over this yet.
Accidentally on purpose cross-checked him while he was flying down the ice.
What are you talking about? I didn't expect a goaltender to be on the ice. They still had 6 players skating. Came out of nowhere. So Vancouver Canucks lose to the Devils 1-0 in a game that we saw no Canuck luck. I mean, up until probably that point in the season so far, the Canucks had been on a hell of a string of luck. Like, they were getting bounces, they were getting calls. PD couldn't hit the net, and when he did, it was a post. Like, it just seemed like the Vancouver Canucks just couldn't get any break in that game. And then we went to see them play the Rangers the following day, and it was 2 periods of really dominant Vancouver Canucks hockey where I think a friend of the show, Clay Emo at Canuck Clay, was going on about how the Vancouver Canucks are going to be, getting over 50 shots here. And New York ended up getting 20 some odd shots in the third period on that 15-minute man advantage they had on 5-on-5 hockey.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
And it didn't feel like the Vancouver Canucks had sort of decided to, close up shop and, protect the lead. Like, they were doing everything in their power to hold on for dear life.
It's funny because that's the type of game where it depends on your perspective and kind of what side of the ledger you're on, because everyone's kind of saying I felt like it was a bit of a negative tone to it, right? Because I mean the Canucks played great for 2 periods, and then the third period it just fell apart, and they were lucky to get out of there with 2 points. But at the same time, if you were on the other side, I think if the Canucks had done what the Rangers did, I think we'd be saying, okay, the great effort in the third period, came up short, but that's score effects as well coming into play, right? Like, Rangers had the lead, and of course they sat back, and then you got on a run there, but it was too little, too late, and you got to start the game on time, right? So it's kind of, I don't know if either team ended up that thrilled with at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
I can totally understand that. I just don't think that necessarily the New York Rangers have to be happy for you to be annoyed at the Canucks for that. You can just take the team in isolation. If that was at the end of the season, we're battling for a playoff spot, that's a great win. This is the beginning of the season, and you just are absolutely terrified for an entire period. They're throwing everything. New York are throwing everything at the Canucks, and really they only held on because a couple of bounces went our way and a couple whistles went our way as well. So.
Well, I mean, and then there was whatever happened at the end of the game where, I don't know, did word ever come out that what they were looking at, whether the game was over or there was a whistle or something like that? It was so weird. It's your own barn, so if there's clock issues, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be against you. But even then, the horn went, the whistle went, game's over, and New York still wanted something. But I actually want to go. So, Rob, you shared a tweet about how the Vancouver Canucks, cruised to a 3-2 win, and I had to, reply with an animated GIF of a cruise ship in some rough seas, because that's what it felt like. Why? I mean, based on what you saw, why is it that the Vancouver Canucks struggled in that third period? Was it truly just scoring effects, or the fact that the momentum shifted towards New York, and New York was playing from a spot or a place where, hey, you know what, we're going to do anything we can to get the win. We're not really entirely concerned about our own any days. But that, again, didn't matter because the Vancouver Canucks couldn't string anything together.
All of it. I mean, we should also add in, second game of back-to-back for the Canucks. So you're third period of a back-to-back. You'd hope that wouldn't come into play too much on a, with the New Jersey, New York trip where it's, you're staying essentially in the same, you're in the same hotel. Right? And early in the season as well, right? Those games, when you're in February or something, that's a much tougher turnaround when you're battered and bruised as opposed to right now when they're fully healthy. I think there's some concern as well with the third and fourth lines that the Canucks are rolling out there right now. How much do you like what's the line that you put out there when you want to stop the bleeding and you want to put out your defensive studs? I guess it's Horvat's line. For me, it's not Sutter's line.
See, I don't.
Are you a Sutter guy?
Well, no, I don't disagree. But if Horvat's line is what you're setting out there to steady the ship, you're almost conceding that you have one scoring line.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good two-way line, right?
Okay.
But I think that
what are the other two lines contributing? I mean, the fourth line. what I would like to see the fourth line be is sort of a line of agitators, heavy forecheck, can get you out those minutes that you need to give your first three lines a breather, right? The low risk, low reward.
And the fourth line really haven't been doing too badly.
Well, but like here, let's look at the Canucks penalty kill. The Canucks penalty kill has been phenomenal, but who's primarily leading that penalty kill? Well, the fourth line, essentially. So what is it when the fourth line has three forwards on the ice compared to the penalty? Like, what's that difference? Like, is that take that one forward away and suddenly it's like, okay, let's play smart? Or I am not entirely sure why we see such of a shift.
Yeah, there's no real answer to that. Like, the Canucks have struggled with depth down the lineup historically. I think they were hoping that would change this year, but already we're like, even the second line's not even a sort of solid scoring line. So that third line, I think, is really going to struggle because if they're not doing a job defensively, like, and they're not contributing offensively, like, yeah, they're just a liability. And I think Sutter is a main proponent of that. Like, he's the one making those glaring errors, really, over the last few games.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is in the NHL right now, it doesn't matter if you're the first line, second line, third line, fourth line, you've got to be able to play with the puck, right? Like that you can have all the bangers and crashers and defensive guys that you want, but if you're constantly just chipping the puck out and having to play defense all the time, it's going to hurt. And I think that's it. They need to find a better solution in that third line center role, and hopefully it's Adam Gaudette. I mean, I think there's still hope that he can be that guy. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Like all the talk in the preseason is all about like that last spot on the team and the last few spots. And Adam Gaudette, the Canucks basically said, Adam Gaudette won his way onto this team. He's playing too well for us to ignore him. And then they immediately scratch him in the first game, give him 2 games, and then scratch him for the rest. It's kind of funny how that works, right? And it's not the first time it's ever happened. Yeah. I mean, this happens all the time. I remember Fedorov playing lights out in the preseason, and then he starts here on the fourth line with guys that can't give him the puck. Right?
I mean, Canucks are the best at like camp stars, like picking up someone in the preseason that just like ends up going nowhere. But
we've got Jason King on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Jay Beagle seems to be a camp star. He's always like the fittest person, always like the one succeeding in the bag skates and stuff like that. But yeah, like with Adam Gaudette, like he's not really been given the chance to fail.
I think that's the thing for me is that like let's see him fall on his face first before you take him out of the lineup. And I understand why they're doing it, because you've got Sutter, you've got Beagle, they're key guys on the penalty kill, and I don't take any of that away from them. I just like to see them play Sutter on the wing. I think he can play that position fine. And the real trouble is you throw a third line together with Sutter in the middle. He's not really a playmaker, so are you gonna? I feel like you got to have a playmaker on his wing for that to be effective. And if you're throwing, Virtanen and Ferland on there, like who's making the plays?
Yeah,
right?
like I think anybody that could be described as a third line playmaker is down in Utica. Like
exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking. And well, I mean, Goldobin and Berchi are two of their better playmaking wingers, right? And I know you've got to have penalty. I mean, that is the one thing that I think that you see a lot of loud voices online will be freaking out about this and that, and they want Berchi and Goldobin in the line, and like that's fine. But then you've got to have another plan for penalty killer, right?
Yep.
And one thing that I think that the Canucks have really bungled in their development is the development of Jake Virtanen. They've developed a player who has no experience playing power play or penalty kill.
Yeah, they seem to have changed their mind about what they want out of him. And so he's never really had time to develop any, as any particular player, because, they told him they wanted a power forward, like a crashback player, and now he's playing on a wing with Bo Horvat, and that's not really what you want playing on Bo Horvat's wing. So it's just like, what type of player do they want him to be? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved it if they tried to you got to do it in Utica first, though, because it's hard to just. He's not really. I wouldn't say a lot of people would describe him as the smartest player in the league, and so you need a lot of awareness and know-how and smarts to play the penalty kill. But he's got all the tools to be a great penalty killer. He's fast and a big guy, long reach. He should be able to. If he could ever learn how to play the PK, I think that would be a great spot for him as he develops in his career.
I think there was a moment in New York where Jake comes in, agitates, not only draws a crowd who want to throw down with them, but draws a penalty out of that. If he could do more of that day in, day out, he proves his worth. But I also think that that's the type of player that also sort of skews towards being able to kill penalties. But you brought a point, like they sort of bungled his development. Like ultimately, like what has the team asked him to be? Like you said, Anna, the power forward style. That's probably the only thing we've heard. But a power forward should be developing to be maybe even both, you could argue, a penalty killer as well as someone on the power play, like a Ryan Kessler.
I think if you could go back now and remember Kessler when he played that full year in Manitoba when they had the lockout. So he got that full year there, and I think that was really probably good for his development. And I think that's something that it would have been great if Virtanen had a year in Utica where he was their leading scorer and he played the power play and he played the penalty kill and he played 18, 19 minutes a night. He never really got that, right? Like when he went down there when they essentially gave him to Travis Green when he was coaching Utica and gave him, what was it, 3/4 of the remainder of the year down there. I mean, he didn't shoot the lights out. Like he didn't score. He wasn't one of their leading scorers by any means. It was sort of this tough love approach from Green. And I think if you could go back now, knowing what we know now, is probably a little more obvious, of course. But it would have been great if they could just send him down there until he was obviously ready to be in the NHL, but they had a bad team and they wanted to sell hope. So there's a lot of reason to pull him up into Vancouver.
Who was the coach in Manitoba when Kessler was down there? Was it AV?
Would have been AV, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to draw any correlation here. I just thinking back timing wise. So I guess for argument's sake, is it possible that the Canucks marketing department got in the way of Jake Virtanen's development? Because there is this suggestion that one of the reasons why Jake is a Canuck and one of the reasons why he's had so much focus on the early going is that he's a local kid and the Canucks were in a spot where they needed sort of that feel-good story.
I mean, I think the fact that he was from Abbotsford and was a tough player and we were still kind of in the shadows of 2011 and they won, and I think there might have been somebody in the higher ups that wanted kind of a rough and tumble player like that. Yeah. Perhaps that I mean, I'm in no position to say that whether they were or not, but no, it certainly seemed like it because they seemed to go off the board a little bit with that pick. So I do think that they might have been a victim of overthinking it at that point, right? And
I want to make it very clear, I'm not suggesting, the Canucks marketing department, makes a phone call to the draft table. But
I mean, the suggestion is ownership, right? Like that's what people suggest. I mean, I'm in no position to I don't have those kind of connections yet, but
just send Francisco a text message. Hey, I'm on the C4 podcast, you know them,
I think. I think that Jim Benning, that would be selling Jim Benning short as well. I think you hire a scout to draft. I think Benning probably thought that was the guy they should draft. So,
yeah, it does feel like the Jake Virtanen narrative overtook Jake Virtanen the player a bit, and sending him down to Utica was a punishment rather than part of his development. And he's had, I don't want to say attitude problems, maybe that's a bit strong, but, off ice issues, like not coming prepared to camp, all sorts of things like that. And it just feels like it could have been handled so much better if he didn't have that pressure, but maybe he was always going to.
I'll tell you, the thing I'm most surprised about Jake Virtanen in his career so far is that I remember seeing him just kind of in junior and when he first came up, and I saw a player and I thought for sure this was not going to be like a Zach Kassian thing. Remember Zach Kassian? He came in, he was not quite ready for the league right away, and then he started to play, and people were like, okay, well, can he be like can he hit somebody tonight? And then his defenders were saying, well, no, maybe he's not a power forward. He's just a big guy and he's skilled and whatnot. And we just try to make excuses and try to find a box for him to fit in. And I thought with Virtanen when he came up, because he just looked like a guy that loved to hit. He would steamroll players. Even when he came into the NHL, when he first came up, he would just nail guys. And I thought for sure we would not be in a situation where we would be wondering if this guy can play like a power forward, or why this player isn't playing more of a rough and tumble game. And to me, it's absolutely shocking. I do wonder. He had the shoulder injuries early in his career. I always wonder, did that change? Did he realize I can't play like this and survive?
It could be. And one of the things to consider as well is the team has asked him to work on his off-season training differently. Look at Pettersson, for instance, who's essentially turning to Captain America, and that type of transformation. Whereas Jake was sort of the opposite direction. He was asked to get lighter. Right? I mean, it does change how you play that game. What you were accustomed to be able to do in junior, where I'm just going to run you over and there isn't anything that can slow me down. Now you come to the NHL where that's just not possible to begin with, and you've gotten lighter. So you almost have two things that you're having to adapt. Just going over to Discord here, into the patron chat, and Trev Goldie says, I think Jake has turned into just an Abdelkader light. Can fight, but doesn't do too much. Can score, but not all the time. Can skate, but sometimes not into the position to play with players who can also. Is he onto something?
I gotta check Abdelkader's stats. I think I might take that.
Oh my god. So yeah, Trev Goldie, you're getting written into an article in Daily Hive tomorrow.
That's right.
But yeah, he's kind of a middling player. But yeah, I guess we're wondering what player he turns out to be. But he needs an identity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I didn't want to talk. My narrative wasn't actually to talk a whole lot about Jake. But I don't mind that we are. The narrative I sort of wanted to address is Canucks goaltending. So I actually had someone who is down in Seattle. He's actually following the Vancouver Canucks because he wanted to get into hockey. There's a Seattle franchise, obviously, that allegedly is going to be known as the Kraken, because some Instagram account called NHL Rumors /Insiders or whatever, broke it. But he was asking, oh, hey, the Vancouver Canucks are doing really well. This is the season, right? And my response, I think it's still too early. You look at the Vancouver Canucks, their goaltending right now is stealing them wins. It's always nice to have goaltenders that can steal you a win or two, or at least keep you in a game until you can, get those 2 points. The problem is that you don't want your goaltenders to have to do that game in and game out. And we actually have seen both Markstrom as well as Demko, in the absence of Markstrom for a few games, arguably have to board that net up to give the Vancouver Canucks a fighting chance to come back. I am not knocking the fact that they're boarding the net up. Please don't, get me wrong. But how sustainable is it when you're having to rely on your goaltenders that much? It almost, I won't say it feels exactly but it's almost like Luongo's first season, where he essentially carried the Vancouver Canucks into the postseason because outside of scoring goals, he willed the team to get those points. It feels to me Markstrom is trying to do somewhat the same, and Demko in his absence. Outside the fact that, Demko had a rough couple first shots just to get that, warm-up goal out of the way.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Right,
if you're going to let one in, just might get it done over and done with early. The problem is in New Jersey it didn't work out so well. In fairness, I mean, he wasn't.
Yeah.
It's been unbelievable how his career has gone, isn't it?
What, Demko or?
Sorry, Schneider's.
Schneider?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Schneider in New Jersey. That's just.
But how he's essentially the billet for Hughes.
He looks so sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible because, I mean, his career's just gone, it's just gone. And at age, he's 33 now?
I mean, who could have predicted it, before the trade, right? Everyone was thinking, this is Schneider's job, Louis going to find a way to get out of here. And then everything changed.
Like, as it turned out, Schneider had more of an albatross contract than Luongo. Mm-hmm. Like, do you want that Schneider? Like, they can't trade Schneider at his ticket right now.
Well,
yeah, very highly paid backup right there.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing that was going against Luongo was recapture and term. But, back then you could almost suggest that Luongo was going to play until he was about 45, 50. Like, he was going to Chelios that sucker through to, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe he still could, but, that ship has sailed. Corey Schneider, what happened? Like, he was the Canucks goaltender of the future. I mean, I don't think anyone was incredibly happy he was the goaltender that traded, especially for the draft pick that turned into Debo Horvat. Hindsight being 2020, New Jersey wants to know when the future considerations they didn't talk about but should have happened were going to be sorted out. Like, was that just a matter of the Vancouver Canucks insulating a goaltender and knowing something that others didn't? It has to do with injury because, Corey has had a bad spell. I mean, Cody Hodgson. Cody Hodgson had a phenomenal year because the Vancouver Canucks knew how to insulate that player and made, not like bandits, but made out quite well in being able to trade him for another project. And then Cody Hodgson, that was pretty much it for his career. So, did they do the same with Corey Schneider?
See, I think Hodgson's career was derailed by injuries, right?
Yeah,
and he had that weird degenerative,
which we
thing,
actually only just learned about last year.
Yeah, right. I think in hindsight, that's probably what it was. I always quibbled a little bit with the idea that Gillis's genius formed him, Hodgson, into this great player because they put him in good situations. I mean, that helps certainly, but he still had to produce, right? You can't just throw anybody into that spot and have them rack up points. And I would love to actually go back and watch games, just watch some games from his rookie year and just look at him and be like, okay, was he good? Or was this,
because part of that sheltering created all these problems off ice with his dad saying he needed more minutes and whatever. Who'd say what that actually directly led to the trade, but he got some extra offensive zone starts. I mean, I still think he had a genuinely a good season that year, and I still hate that trade. This is what it's funny. It doesn't take Canucks fans much to go back to 2011. Yeah,
there's different spots, right? And if you ask players about, if you ask people about certain moments, and I think the Cody Hodgson trade is still one of those trades. Because I still hate it because it didn't make any sense. Even if you thought Hodgson was not a good player, he's a problem, or you had to deal with his dad too much, you needed to trade for somebody that could help you right now. And they were in their window. That was they could have won the cup that year, and they traded him for a player that was not ready to play that year.
Yeah.
I
mean, Canucks fans are kings of doing this.
What are you talking about? Going back to 94? You remember 82?
Yeah. Maybe we can move on from trades where one of the players is no longer in the NHL.
Yeah. Before we take a break, the last thing I wanted to talk about is these early games. So the Vancouver Canucks head out east, and as is essentially the NHL's modus operandi, mid-afternoon games are the thing in the U.S. I get that has a lot to do with the fact that they're up against, on Saturdays you've got college football, on Sundays you've got NFL. So really for U.S. television, there's just no good time. And as a result, they're now trying to market themselves into being that family event that people can get to. So I understand from an access perspective, but you're the Vancouver Canucks who's going on an eastern road swing where you're playing these games that are so early compared to what you are normally used to playing. And you are, for all intents and purposes, somewhat at a disadvantage. I mean, even having to go do two of them back to back, one might argue, well, they should be used to it by now. Well, new team, new season. And, Anna, looking at the rundown there, you outlined that there's still a couple more early morning games to go and a few, mid-morning, mid-afternoon for us.
Yeah.
I know this is the reality of the NHL, but is there anything to be said for a team out west like Vancouver? And this is no different than if it's the Kings or the Sharks. They all get punished just as equally. The difference, however, being for Vancouver is that you also have to add in the distance traveled. Vancouver, every season, has the worst travel record.
Well, I think it just shows that just Canucks don't have much bargaining power.
Well, they never really have. I mean,
Yeah.
I was reading, I can't remember what the book was off the top of my head, but Bruce Dalbingham wrote a book about Mike Gillis, and there was a chapter.
Ice Storm?
Yeah, I still remember. There was a chapter where Gillis apparently leveraged the league. He went with stats and metrics to say, "There's nothing you can do to improve our travel schedule. We accept that. Here are our suggestions on how to, make it work, while at the same time requiring us to travel as much as you need to." And the NHL was receptive to the idea at the time. Now, if that was the case back then, what's changed? Because we've sort of seen that the Vancouver Canucks are getting some tough road trips. Rob, you sort of point out, at least this way it's early in the season before they're banked up in February and that, so there's maybe a saving grace there. And maybe Benning was on the horn with whomever puts the schedule together.
Well, they apparently did it. I remember when the schedule came out this year that they did have a more favorable schedule this year compared to last year. But then what does that say about last year's schedule, I suppose? But yeah, no, I think yeah, like you say, the Eastern teams when they come out west and have to play a game at 7:00 Pacific time, and their bodies are for their bodies that's 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's probably just as bad. It's a 10 a.m. for them.
Toronto comes up and plays at 4 p.m. Pacific.
I think there's probably something to be said also for teams that are used to playing matinee games. The Canucks don't play 1:00 games hardly ever in Vancouver, never mind a 10 a.m. game.
I think there was a 2:00 game last season, but that was the first one that I could remember.
I think they're starting to add a few in here and there. I think just to be able, those Sunday afternoon games and whatnot. And on this trip it was made a little bit easier by the fact that they went to St. Louis first, so it wasn't the full changeover. So they should have been used to, the central time zone at least in that scenario. But yeah, no, it's funny. I don't know, my feeling on matinee games is I love them just as long as the Canucks aren't in them. Or if I've got dinner plans and I can't make it, then I love those afternoon games. But otherwise I hate them. But those Saturdays when there's 15 games going on in one night and they're all 4:00 or 7:00. I kind of like having. I think they should sprinkle in a few afternoon games. That's kind of nice to be able to just catch a random Carolina Hurricanes or Columbus Blue Jackets game in the afternoon.
It's true. You just end up watching hardly any other teams because they're all on at the same time. So from that perspective, it's nice. But yeah, it does seem like Canucks aren't good at them. They never have been. But I don't think they can do anything about it. The Canucks don't have any sway in the league. Seems they had a new captain to name and a huge ceremony planned for their home opener, and they still couldn't get their season start at home. So it doesn't. I don't know if they went to the league and proposed that, but just saying, it doesn't seem like the Canucks get many breaks whatsoever.
Okay. So, just before we take a quick break here, if you are happening to need to go to the game on Friday against the Washington Capitals, first and foremost, it's not a 10 a.m. start. It's going to be a 7 p.m. puck drop. I would recommend that you maybe check out Vivid Seats to find those tickets. Now, they're the top source of tickets for all the events you want to go to, not just Vancouver Canucks games. You can search by price, where you want to sit in the actual barn, right down to, particular row if you want to hang out with me or avoid me.
Please post where you're going to be.
To use Vivid Seats, you just want to actually download their app. It's on the Google Play Store, Apple Store, and you're automatically going to be enrolled in the Vivid Seats Rewards loyalty program. Now, why is this important? Well, if you happen to enter the promo code OVERTIME at checkout, you could receive a discount of up to $100 off of those tickets that you go and pick up. Every purchase that you make is backed 100% by a buyer guarantee, and that's all the way from the concerts that you might go to, the Vancouver Canucks games, or for my interest, maybe the Vancouver Titans when they're in town next season for the Overwatch League. All you esports fans represent.
Yeah, I'm sure loads of people will be picking up those tickets.
But we are going to take a quick break before we go into Half Full, Half Empty.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
So before we get into Half Full, Half Empty and pick Rob's brain a little bit more, I actually want to tell you that today's episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast is actually brought to you by CBS Sports HQ. You've heard me talk about this before. It's a brand new streaming sports news network. It's live 24/7. It costs you absolutely nothing. That's right. It's sports coverage that's absolutely free. Now, I know you tune into the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast for everything that you need to learn about the Vancouver Canucks, but I will be the first to concede I don't follow much of anything else, including sports. Now, I also know you're probably tuning in, or at least reading, all the content that Rob's producing over on Offside. Is Offside?
We can call it Offside, yeah.
Yeah, Offside.
Yep.
But if you need more than that, the CBS Sports HQ has coverage on everything. They've got highlights, breaking news that happens, fantasy advice, and, something that we actually care deeply about here, gambling picks and analysis to get you that extra edge. Because I keep asking Matt for that information.
He won't share it.
And he won't share it. So, there are no fake debates. It's just sports for real sports fans at a great price of completely, free. You don't even have to log in or sign up or anything. Just download that CBS Sports app and watch the CBS Sports HQ today. Now, that's actually how I learn what's happened in the world of the Vancouver Canucks, so that I can come to a podcast once every 2 months, as I'm apt to do recently, to talk a little bit about it. But let's get into Half Full, Half Empty. And the topic that I have been, stopping Anna from bringing up is special teams. You have the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill, and you have the Vancouver Canucks power play. Which do we want to start?
Well,
the good or the bad?
Sure, let's just go quickly through the penalty kill and then we'll dive right in.
Sure, penalty kill. They got not only did they get a shorthanded goal, they're pretty much top of the league when it comes to the PK. We talked a little bit about it previously. You have players who seem to be just perfectly suited. And I don't actually know what it is about the Canucks penalty kill that's making it so good. Like you've probably seen in years past where an aggressive penalty kill puts that team with the man advantage sort of on the back skate. Nothing comes from it. Some might suggest it has to do with systems. I don't know if it's one or the other, but the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill just seems to be good. Like, to use the Willie Desjardins, real good. It's not flashy. It's not something special, but it knows how to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing with the penalty kill, and you alluded to it, coaching is massive with special teams with power play and penalty kill. Another thing with the PK is if you've got one player that's kind of out of sync, your PK can break down. So I think it's likely a credit to the players. It's always difficult to get into the systems when we're analyzing hockey because they're so subtle and we're not there in the meetings when they're going through things. But to me, it feels like a situation where you've got a lot of players that kind of know where they're supposed to be and they're kind of working well as a 4-man unit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the kind of key word is responsibility. They kind of know what their job is and they know how to do it. And when they don't do it right, they're the first to own up and say, yeah, that was my job to do that and I didn't. So I think, yeah, it seems like they have actual clarity with what they're doing, which is nice to see.
I think it was after the New Jersey game where I think Jay Beagle was trying to take responsibility for that Jack Hughes goal, which scores his first NHL career goal against his brother's team, because everyone knows the NHL is scripted like the WWE.
Also, Canucks are great at that. If you if you haven't scored in ages, or you want your first NHL goal,
well, there's all these. The Canucks are good. The Canucks are good at making goaltenders look like they play like Patrick Waugh. Canucks, there's all these things. I don't think it's just the Canucks are the only team that seems to make this happen. It's just that's the team we pay attention to the most, and therefore we see it time and time again. But I get where you're driving at there. But yeah, JVL's like, hey, that's on me. But, I actually thought the New Jersey power play and the one that Hughes scored that goal on, that was what I would like the Vancouver Canucks power play to be doing, to be fast on the ice, move the puck around quickly, because the faster you are and the more movement you have as a power play, generally will equate to much better success. And if you look at the Canucks power play, say for a little bit in New York and maybe against Detroit, it's been very static. Like, it's let's throw the puck around the peripheral, and our options are an Edler shot from the point maybe, or get it to Petey, who's going to wrist it in from the hash marks. It just sort of seems to be what the options are. And then if that puck gets to the net, hopefully we can crash and bang it in. Which, hey, if you score goals is great, but on the power play, you arguably should not be relying on your messy goals as being the producing factor. The messy goals are the nice to haves. Now, what did we see happen against the Rangers? Well, there was one minor change to the first unit, and it happened to be, Quentin Hughes. And it's amazing how one player gets on the ice and suddenly the power play became dynamic. They were moving. They were actually putting pressure on the Rangers in such a way that was creating confusion. Is that just a Quinn Hughes thing, or did the system change because Quinn Hughes was in that unit?
I mean, I think it was in combination. It was in the tweak they made was one I wouldn't have done myself, but it really seemed to work. And I think it's because, like, the Canucks have had pretty well the same setup in terms of who's quarterbacking their power play for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Henrik Sedin, the left shot on the right side wall, and everything goes through Henrik. And before Henrik, it was Marcus Naslund doing the same thing, except he had a better shot, right?
Right. Well, lots of people had better shots.
And so I think we're so used to seeing that. And of course, Henrik retires, and Pettersson comes right in, and he's the left shot on the right half wall. And that was one of the changes that they made, is they moved Pettersson to the left side on his strong side, not being on his off wing, and Besser being on the right side. So the left shot on the left wing and the right shot on the right wing. And what that does is it takes away both players' threat of a one-timer, which I hate. Like, that to me
Canucks were never doing that anyway.
And I think that's just it. And I think that part of the problem is Besser doesn't have a great one-timer. He's got a better wrist shot than a slap shot. But Pettersson has a great one-timer, and I think that's a really big threat. So I think eventually they'll go back to that. I think that's probably the way they'll find success. But the thing that, it was funny because I asked somebody, and I was like, well, what is it that I'm liking about this? And he told me it's the movement that you get, because now you're on your strong side, so the left shot on the left wing, and you can skate forward with it. You're not just skating away from the net, so you can skate forward with it with the puck on the outside, and you're protecting it. So I think that increased the movement, having Besser and Pettersson being able to move forward like that. And then you've also got Quinn Hughes moving around and kind of being a bit of a rover. So I think that's what I didn't expect to like that, but I think at least in the short term I like that little tweak.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, because it seems like what was happening in New Jersey is they would try and move, but the power play would, like, the whole formation would just collapse at that point. So I just do think it gives them more options, even though it takes that option of one-timer away. Like, gives it a more dynamic look. It doesn't have to be just one thing.
Well, you look at what I saw with New Jersey, though, is just like Vancouver Canucks power play in that sort of static formation where they're passing the puck around, throwing it around the peripheral, and New Jersey said, "Oh, yeah, well, fine. If that's all you want to do, we're going to give that to you." And at any point where it looked like the Vancouver Canucks were going to either try to shoot the lane, that's when there was an immediate presence from a double forward trying to rush the issue. And so as a result, what's the safe option? Okay, I'm going to go back to the peripheral. And the Devils are like, yeah, okay. Almost to me, it seems like the Devils were the ones dictating what was happening on the ice when the Vancouver Canucks were on a power play. Against the Rangers, that sort of felt like that until we started to see that shift. I am again, because we talked about this already, I'm going to go harken back to the good old days in 2011 and in the West Coast Express era when special teams was successful. it was because the Vancouver Canucks were causing players to lose their footing as they were, pirouetting around the ice trying to keep up with the puck. Essentially, they'd get you so dizzy that they would then take advantage of someone being out of position, that person falling out of sync, and it suddenly became a 5-on-3 because the fourth player on the ice was somewhere up in Banff or wherever they happened to find themselves. Like, it was that bad. I also like the fact that Quinn Hughes has some swagger to him. Like, you see him with the puck. He's probably more confident than he should be for a rookie blue liner, and it's probably going to come and hurt him multiple times possibly over the course of the season. But when was the last time that you could say that the Vancouver Canucks had that level of swag on the blue line?
They've never had a player that moves like he does. He's probably already the best skating defenseman they've ever had, right?
Yeah. So I was actually going to say,
I never saw Paul Reinhardt. I'll put that caveat out there. Yeah. You know what? I love the Jyrki Lume used to do like this heel pick in the ice. Do you remember that when he'd come up the ice and he'd just kind of stick his heel in there and he'd kind of do like this quick pivot?
Yeah.
It's too bad this is not a video podcast. You guys should. Yeah, everybody.
I was amazed you were able to do it on a carpeted floor as well. So you could do it on the ice.
But Lume never moved like Hughes, right? He's an unbelievable skater and just great with the puck on his stick. I fully expect him to be the greatest defenseman in Canucks history. He's that talented. And you know what? I must say, like his first NHL goal, that slap shot, I did not know he had a shot.
I don't think anyone knew he had a slap shot.
And I think that was maybe the
rocket.
Yeah, and I think that's something to be excited about. Hopefully he sticks on the first unit, because I think long term that's the play, and they've got to just kind of build that up at the moment, because for all Edler gets a bad rap in this city, and he's probably the best defenseman they've ever had that nobody liked.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree.
Like nobody really likes him, right?
His back catalogue of play over the years has been impressive.
I think people liked Edler until Sammy Salo was gone. Because, you think about it, and that's not to suggest that Salo is hated, but once Salo was gone, Edler sort of had to go into the Sammy Salo role. Mm-hmm. And that's when I think people were like, well, wait a minute, where'd Sammy Salo go? Alex Edler's no Sammy Salo. I hate Alex Edler, right?
It's just they play him 23, 24 minutes a night and he's been on a really bad team for a long time, right? So they have to play him that much. And that's just kind of, and he's also not an endearing character. He's just a quiet guy. He's a nice, seems like a nice guy, and that's about it. But he's not somebody that fans tend to gravitate to, right?
But yeah, Quinn Hughes just is a pleasure to watch 99% of the time. Him blowing past his brother was about the enjoyable part of that New Jersey game, I think.
Whoop!
That was, super fun. And you rather have him have that confidence, and then he'll make mistakes and he will learn, sure, but you want him to have the guts to try those moves. And I think defensively he still has a ways to go, but at the very start of his career and what he brings offensively, it's just.
But yeah, I'm very excited to see once that first unit really starts to gel, whether it's this year or next year, having Hughes being that kind of roving point man, that's something that Edler is not, right? Mm-hmm. And also having a guy like Edler has a big shot, but it seems like he never has time to get it away, right? And Hughes can get get his slap shot off a lot quicker. So I think that's something that's really going to change the dynamic of the entire man advantage.
Yeah. We asked our patrons for questions that they might want answered by you. I hope you don't mind. We got a few of them here. I'm going to ask them to you. So Bearded Canuck said, what bold prediction does Rob have for the Canucks this season? And he in brackets gave you ideas like trade, scoring output, etc. But this has got to be a bold prediction. To use the Matt to vernacular, it needs to be list-worthy.
Boy, oh boy. I don't know if I have a bold prediction.
That's not what this podcast is about. No, we already have Anna.
No, I know. You know what? The worrying thing that you're hearing rumblings about is does this team want Troy Stecher long term? And I think that if that's a player that gets traded, that would, I mean, you're 6th defenseman on the team right now, right? Like at least by ice time. That's a player that's beloved in this city. You know, everyone loves his story. You know, little guy plays, you know, has a huge heart, local player. If he gets traded, that'll be like, it might be like when Eddie Lack was traded, right? Like people will not.
Yeah, people are still talking about Eddie.
People will not be happy.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, I think is definitely within the realm of possibility. I think it would be more within the realm of possibility if Olli Juolevi was a right side defenseman. If he was a right shot and ended up coming up this year, I think that would be, you know, probably an imminent move.
But God, who knows with Juolevi, right?
So, I mean, who would have thought Troy from Richmond would be gone before Jake from Addy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Jake's on his last legs here too. I think that's probably the more imminent move that they could make. I could see that. You know, you probably don't want to ditch a defenseman, and then, I mean, who's your next right side guy that you're bringing up? So you probably wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, I think that I think a move like that, either Jake or Stecher, I think one of those guys could get moved, and that would be a massive story in this market.
Killer Sushi. Question for everybody. I'm going to give it just to you, Rob. Is it too early to believe, or are the result masking issues because of an easier schedule that will come back to earth as games compress and the Canucks face harder teams?
I guess it depends where your bar is at, right?
So are you a part of the good-looking, positive Canucks club? What is it, the GLPGC, that Clay's running? Or are
nobody's as positive as Clay?
Somewhere
I can't be that positive.
Is,
no one is.
Or are you on the Adam FOC tank wagon?
No, God, I hope we're not talking about tanking this year. Like, it's just, we need a year to feel good. Like, even just to start the year, there's just a nice vibe to it. I think there's some hope finally in the fan base. My prediction to start the year was that the Canucks would be one of the best teams to not make the playoffs. I think they're on that cusp. I think if a few things go right, they could make it in. And I think that you're seeing some signs that there could be some doors opening. There's a number of teams that made the playoffs last year that don't look very good this year in the West. Dallas is off to a franchise worst start, which is really saying something for them. You look at San Jose, they don't look especially good. So and Winnipeg has got a ton of troubles. They still don't have Dustin Byfuglien. So I think we're seeing some hope that there might be room for a new team to make the playoffs in the West. And if the Canucks get great goaltending from Markstrom and Demko, you know, I think that there's definitely a path for them to the playoffs.
So you're saying we have a chance?
Yeah.
One final thing, because we got it wrapped up here. We're getting thrown out of the big hot box, and Anna's got a hot date to get to. Lars Scheiders, tell me more about this. I know Anna's part of the Lars Scheiders. She goes and rubs it in about how she's up there shouting, hooting and hollering. But I mean, you're one of the people who was, you know, key in getting this sort of, I don't know what, supporters group, is that what I should be calling it?
Sure, yeah.
You know, up and running with the Canucks.
Yeah, I mean, how it started was, you know, I won't go through all the long, boring details of how it started, but I think it was a chance, I thought, to kind of, you know, instead of complaining about the atmosphere at the game like I would all the time, and I think it's something as, you know, people that follow the Canucks and like going to games, I think everyone was kind of quietly ashamed of the fact that Rogers Arena was a terrible place to go watch a game. And it wasn't just when they were a bottom feeder. It was getting bad. It was getting bad before that, right? Yeah. And I think that's something that, you know, an opportunity was there, and to be able to do something. I laid it out in an article, and I just basically said, like, I think the end of my article was saying the Ottawa Senators have a supporters group, and it seems to work okay for them. If the Ottawa Senators can do it, then God knows why can't the Canucks? So, quickly with the Lars Scheiders, it's been an unbelievable success. We are the section's completely sold out for the entire season. Only 8 games that the group is going to, but I think the group's kind of found its groove, and it's different from the Southsiders. I know everyone makes that connection, and obviously the name's a bit of a play on the Southsiders name, and obviously that's I've got nothing bad to say about the Southsiders. Southsiders are great, but I think the idea was to make it a little bit more tailored to hockey fans.
Sure.
So I think in a lot of ways it's a lot of throwback things, people bringing signs and singing na 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 hey, hey goodbye when the group probably does that a little, probably quick on the trigger on that. Probably quick on the trigger on that one, but
end of the first period, it's already coming out.
But okay, two goal games, and then the other team scores a goal, and then everybody on social media is not a fan of that. So
probably up there shouting shout out too, right? Shout out, yeah.
But I mean, it's just a fun time. It's a bunch of people that love the Canucks and love hockey, and it kind of gives everyone, I think, a space to kind of just have a good time and make a lot of noise. I think it gives a lot of people that maybe go to games regularly and they're not necessarily the loudest person in the section. But if you're kind of around a group and it's kind of encouraged, I think it fosters that. So I think it's a great thing for going to games and it's a blast to watch a game in there.
Cool. Awesome. Well, just to wrap things up, first of all, thanks for joining us on the episode last minute. I know Anna dropped the ask of you, and hopefully we can get you back on more often if you don't mind coming to this, nice box we record in.
Box.
Yeah, no, it's great being back in the library for the first time in over a decade.
Yeah, Rob hasn't read a book in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, maybe even longer.
But for all of our listeners that are tuning in and don't understand who Rob the Hockey Guy is, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, you go to dailyhive.com, and I won't give you the long, boring URL to get to the sports section, but find Offside on there, and you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter with all of my insightful comments you can see there.
And just to make it clear, you are more than just a hockey guy.
I think so, yeah. I love all sports. I love all sports other than the opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't care about MMA at all, and I don't care about watching golf at all. Yeah. But I like to golf.
Enough.
I like to golf, but I don't like to fight. Yeah. So there you go.
But your Twitter name is never going to change. Like Wyatt is always going to be the Stanchion. I mean, pass it to Bullis. I know it's more so Daniel now, but it'll always be part of Harrison. Hell, Drance is back, and everyone still knows him as Artem Chabarov, right? Like it's not something that'll ever leave you. Always be the hockey guy.
Yeah, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah. Anna, any final words of wisdom for our thousands and thousands of C4 listeners?
No, just a pleasure to have someone else to stare at in the hot box that isn't Matt or yourself.
Oh, come on now. It's not like I'm here all the time. I'm kind of hurt by that. I mean, you get to stare at Matt a lot, and I apologize that it's just been him.
Yeah, that's been brutal.
As for me, it is good to be back. I don't know how often I'll be around. Lots going on. It's amazing how fatherhood eats up a lot of your time. Just want to say that. But this is also a federal election day. Hopefully you all voted, and if you didn't, oh well, you might get to vote again sometime soon, the way things are going. But on behalf of the Missing in Action, Matt Lee at @MattLee_61, Adam Obenall Carter at AdamFOC, myself, Chris Golden at Lightforce, and Anna Forsyth at aforsyth03. If you're looking for us all online, those were all our Twitter handles, but we can be found at c4podcast.com, on Facebook, facebook.com/c4podcast, as well as Twitter at the C4 Podcast. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you join our Discord and have a grand old time in Gate 16 with all of us. To get there, it's bit.ly/C4 Discord. C4 Discord is in all caps. So again, on behalf of Anna, Adam, Matt, as well as our special guest, Rob, and myself, Chris, we're signing off. The C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast is heard on the Overtime Network with those two words. We're out.